16% of all children in the United States, 11.6 million kids total, are living in poverty. A family of 4 with annual earnings below $29,678 is considered poor. In the last decade, the percentage of U.S. children in poverty peaked at 23% in 2012 and fell to 16% 2022. That's according to the data center aecf.org. This shit's crazy. This is on census.gov. Child poverty fell to record low 5.2% in 2021. Expansions to child tax credit contributed to 46% decline in child poverty since 2020. So they have numbers here, but then it says, in contrast, when calculated by the official poverty measure, child poverty declined only 0.7, my desk is a mess, 0.7 percentage units from 16% to 15%, 15.3. The official poverty measure is based on pre-tax cash income, while the SPM includes non-cash benefits such as supplemental nutrition SNP. SPM child poverty rates have been consistently lower than the official ones since the beginning of the series in 2009. So it's a different measurement. In 2020, the two child poverty measures that begin to diverge due to the impact of large anti-poverty programs established or expanded in response to the COVID-19 pandemic, such as the stimulus payments, expansions to SNAP, and the child tax credit. Remember, they're taking a lot of these benefits away. But still, so it only went down to 15.3. This was published last year. We're now at the Center for Progress, I think. It's AmericanProgress.org. Yeah, Center for American Progress. 1 in 7 kids, who make up almost 1/3 of all people living in poverty in this country. This number should be unimaginable in one of the world's wealthiest countries, and yet child poverty has remained stubbornly high for decades. Across the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development, which is made up of 37 countries, including Denmark, New Zealand, Spain, etc., the United States is currently ranked as one of the worst in child poverty rates. I'm going to read this paragraph. It says, as the COVID-19 pandemic and resulting recession continue to devastate the United States, children are facing the consequences of failed leadership. Since April 2020, the share of children with at least one employed parent has consistently remained above reported rates during the peak of the Great Recession. More than 4 in 10 children live in a household struggling to meet basic expenses, and between 7 million and 11 million children live in households in which they're unable to eat enough because of the cost. When the pandemic forced schools to shift to distance virtual learning, it worsened the barriers to quality education for low-income children and pushed their parents, particularly mothers, to choose between caregiving and employment. Without serious interventions, an economic recovery will leave low-income and marginalized people and their children behind. Already, some calculations are finding that child poverty rate has increased dramatically since the onset of the coronavirus crisis. I don't know what these calculations are in specific. I can believe it because the cost of living has gone up dramatically. I'm looking for other resources, and right now I'm looking on Google. I'll put America versus other countries on child poverty. The first thing that pops up is the National Institute of Health.gov. That's ncbi.nlm.nih.gov. It says all poverty rates provided in this article refer to such relative poverty lines In the selected set of countries, relative child poverty ranges from 5% in Norway, one of the world's lowest rates, to over 20% in the United States, twice as high as in the United Kingdom, Sweden, or France. This is in the National Library of Medicine. Is titled Addressing Child Poverty. How does the United States compare with other nations?
Abstract. Poverty during childhood raises a number of policy challenges. The earliest years are critical in terms of future cognitive and emotional development and early health outcomes, and have long-lasting consequences on future health. In this article, child poverty in the United States is compared with a set of other developed countries. To the surprise of few, results show that child poverty is high in the United States. But why is poverty so much higher in the United States than in other rich nations? Among child poverty drivers, household composition and parents' labor market participation matter a great deal. But these are not insurmountable problems. Many of these disadvantages can be overcome by appropriate public policies. For example, single mothers have a very high probability of poverty in the United States, but this is not the case in other countries where the provision of work support increases mothers' labor earnings and together with strong public cash support effectively reduces child poverty. In this article, we focus on the role and design of public expenditure to understand the functioning of the different national systems and highlight ways for improvements to reduce child poverty in the United States. We compare relative child poverty in the United States with poverty in a set of selected countries. The takeaway is that the United States underinvests in its children and their families, and in so doing this leads to high child poverty and poor health and educational outcomes. If a nation like the United States wants to decrease poverty and improve health and life chances for poor children, it must support parental employment and incomes, and invest in children's futures as do other similar nations with less child poverty. Keywords: child poverty, cross-national, income supports, public expenditure, public services. Countries are often judged by the way they treat their children. Poverty in early years can have long-lasting consequences on various dimensions of children's future lives, including their adult health status, their performance at school, and future labor market outcomes. Many research studies have also shown that early and continued intervention, social investments, and income supports can curb these trends. High-quality early childhood education and care, continuous access to health care, income support for families most in need, and parenting support to facilitate work and family life can all contribute to lessen the effects of children living in poverty. 1.2. This article provides a cross-country comparison of policies to reduce child poverty and support low-income families in a set of selected rich countries. These countries have been chosen to illustrate their diversity, with the United States being the central point of comparison. The set of selected countries encompass other English-speaking countries, like the United Kingdom, Canada, Ireland, and Australia, as well as other large and rich European countries, capturing the diversity of European policy: Italy for Southern Europe, France and Germany for Continental Europe, the Czech Republic for Central Eastern Europe, and Sweden and Norway for Northern Europe. The article starts by describing the diversity of child poverty levels in the selected set of countries. The health effects of growing up poor are discussed in the third section. A discussion of the drivers behind different patterns of child poverty, family, earnings, and state support comes next. We then review existing policies to fight child poverty in the selected countries and compare their size and design, with a special emphasis on cash support compared with in-kind benefits. We especially focus on early childhood care and education, and health care as promising policy levers to address child poverty by investing in poor children's futures. Last, we review a set of policy tools that might be used to fight child poverty in an integrated manner in the United States and in other nations that value children and their futures. Go to. How many children face poverty in wealthy countries? Child poverty is measured by the share of children living in a household where the disposable income adjusted for household size is below a given poverty line.